I think the biggest controversy of tonight was really, again, the moderators. Now, they didn't do an abysmal job overall because, as John pointed out during our live coverage, you know, they at least framed one of the questions with, I mean, if Republicans take money and it corrupts them, Hillary Clinton, how about you? Okay, all right, fair enough. That's a tough question to her, but it's a very, very fair question, right? But even though it's PBS and we're told over and over again that it's liberal media, almost every question came from Republican or right-wing framing. Now, let me give you the first two questions here. This video is 13 and 14. And it'll be emblematic, but they did this throughout the night on almost every topic. Let's watch.
Senator Sanders, to you first. Coming off the results in Iowa and New Hampshire, there are many voters who are taking a closer look at you and your ideas, and they're asking, how big a role do you foresee for the federal government? It's already spending 21% of the entire U.S. economy. How much larger would government be in the lives of Americans under a Sanders presidency?
So here we go again. It's the same question they always ask the Democrats. Oh, you want big government, you're going to spend so much. But they never ask the Republicans, you spend so much money on wars, why are you in favor of big government? How are you going to pay for it? Iraq and Afghanistan cost trillions of dollars, yet you guys want more bombing, you want the Trident submarines and all that stuff. How are you going to pay for it? They never ask it. So that was the first question. Hold. They're going to ask the second question to Hillary Clinton. Let's see if it's different.
Secretary Clinton, you also have proposed fairly expansive ideas about government. You may remember this pledge from a State of the Union address at which I believe you were present, in which these words were said: the era of big government is over. You may remember that. When asked their feelings about the federal government this week, 61% of New Hampshire Democrats told exit pollsters that they are angry or at least dissatisfied. Given what you and Senator Sanders are proposing, an expanding government in almost every area of our lives, is it fair for Americans who fear government to fear you?
In almost every area.
Ted Cruz couldn't have asked it any better.
No.
So if it was fair, and then they turned around and asked equally tough questions to the Republicans, you'd say, okay, man, that Republican debate was filled with Democratic framing. That sentence has never been spoken. It's certainly not in the last 20 years that I've been watching these debates. Constantly, the Republicans get patty cakes. The hard questions on the Republican side is usually, Donald Trump said this about you, Jeb Bush. How do you respond?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's never from a point of view, like, have you ever heard this in a Republican debate? Now, you say, Senator Cruz, that you're in favor of smaller government, yet you'd like to get between a woman and her doctor and have the government make choices about her body. Mm-hmm. How is that big government? Mm-hmm. How come we've never seen a question like that in a Republican debate? And I'll tell you right now, ahead of time, you never will. Because the Republicans complain. They get, plus, it's not a liberal media. It's a enormously corporate media, even PBS. There's the controversy about the Koch money that they took and how they killed one of the movies they were going to have about the Koch brothers, et cetera. There is no liberal media. It's enormously conservative. They bash Democrats as they're asking questions, all from a right-wing frame.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, let me add to that. David Sirota wrote this piece that I loved, I'll never forget about, regarding PBS's coverage of pensions. They called their series Pension Peril, and prior to producing it, they went straight to an individual who is very much against pensions and said, hey, fund this series and we will produce it. And it was very, very critical of pensions, wanted to cut pensions for government employees. So yes, you're right about the media not really being liberal in any way, shape, or form. But there was another question, Cenk, that had very questionable framing. That same moderator mentioned the life expectancy of white Americans has actually declined, right? And she framed that question in the context of whites will be outnumbered by minorities by the mid-century, right?
Yes.
Okay, I think that using that context makes it seem as though, increase in minorities, that means lower life expectancy for whites. Yes. What kind of question was that?
I think that's funny, but I think it was in the real way she framed it was ridiculous too. I think it was, poor white people are really angry. they're going to be outnumbered, they're dying. I feel like they're mad because they're dying, or I felt like it was tied to that rather than their cells are shriveling up when they get near black people.
And by the way, isn't that funny?
But it was still ridiculous.
It was,
right.
yeah.
Isn't that funny framing too? Like that if white people are outnumbered by minorities, they should be angry. Well, minorities, by definition, have been outnumbered by white people this whole time. But if they ever get angry, what are you so angry about? Yeah. Oh, the angry black guy. Here they go again, complaining.
By the way, I can't wait until we finally get to a point where all of us are going to be mixed, right?
Right.
Like this is such a ridiculous conversation. All the white people who are worried about minorities outnumbering them. What are you going to do? You're going to demand that every single white person in the United States only marries white individuals? No, it's not going to happen. We have people coming into the country. It's wonderful. There's lots of awesome different cultures, right? Like, it's going to happen. People are going to mix.
There are people
and I'll tell you why they're a little worried, because they think about it from their perspective, and their perspective is, my God, if minorities do to us what us right-wingers have done to them.
Right.
Oof. So if they ever have the power we had, boy, they'd probably kick our ass like we kicked their ass, right? Oh, that's why they're so scared. That's why they're so scared. Can you imagine if black people did to us what we did to them? And think about the history of the United States, and that day, and I don't mean just slavery, I mean civil rights era and all the oppression, the Jim Crow, let alone now where they're trying to take voting rights away, and all the power that they use against them, incarcerate black people at an incredible rate, enormously disproportionately. So that's why they're scared. But now, okay, that's what the right-winger's perspective is. That shouldn't be the perspective of a debate moderator at a Democratic debate. We love tough questions. We always think the press should be a watchdog, but you got to be fair. Now, one final thing, yes, the right-wing framing on the questions to both of them, but it's even worse towards Bernie Sanders. One of the questions was, Hillary Clinton would be the first female president. Bernie Sanders, if you win, how do you feel about thwarting history?
That's insane.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to answer that? What a crazy question that is. We could ask Hillary Clinton the same question back in 2008. Oh, well, if you would be thwarting history by, what am I supposed to do? Just give up and go, oh, okay.
Ask her today. Ask her today. She would be thwarting history.
You know, in World War II, there was a lot of innocent people who got killed. You were for World War II. Are you for killing innocent people?
I know. It's ridiculous.
You could ask that question. It's technically correct. But if you're asking it in that way, I think we're fair to say you might be a little biased.
Yes.
And so John,
it wouldn't be fair for either of them to be asked that.
Right, and John makes a great point. Why can't we turn it around and say to Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders would be the first Jewish president of the United States. Why are you so anti-Semitic by running against him?
Yeah. We've had a lot of Christians in office.
That would be insane framing, right? But it's equally insane to say, oh, why are you running against her? How dare you? Why don't you step down? You're thwarting history.
She tried to thwart history running against the first black guy.
That's right. So, that's why these questions, if you see them one by one, you might think well, I guess, that's technically true or could be asked, or that's a fair criticism. When you see them in their entirety, and one question after another piled up from the right-wing perspective, and even more so against Bernie Sanders, you realize there ain't no liberal media. There's just media run by giant corporations, which almost by definition are conservative, and the proof is in the pudding, and we saw the pudding tonight.